Hi, in this Photoshop CC 2021 tutorial, we're going to go through Classroom Book Chapter 4, which is all about layer basics. And we'll be creating this Hawaii postcard. So let's go ahead and go into our Photoshop. Let's do a file open. Let's come into our Lesson 4 folder. You're going to see we've got quite a few different assets in here. Let's go ahead and grab the start and say open. Now let's do a file, save as, and a first initial last name, underscore Photoshop, Classroom in a Book, chapter number 4. I'm in my Lesson 4 folder and save. So of course, one of the first things I want to do is go image size, take a peek at how big this is. So I can tell it's 5 inches by 7.5. So I couldn't use it as a full size cover of my magazine or a publication. And I know it's 150 pixels. So I could go ahead and bump that up to 300 and kind of just pad that a little bit more. Let's go ahead and say OK. And do a Control S and save as soon as it's done. And let's go back out. So now we're going to go ahead and start working in our layers panel. So in the last lesson, we went ahead and just did quite a few changes, but we couldn't really change anything after because we're all on one layer. Now this time we are working on multiple layers. Remember we talked about layers as being kind of those stacked pieces of transparency on top of each other. So my very back one is background, my very top one is postage. And I can turn my eyeballs on and off in order to see what's going on those different layers and make it a little bit easier to work on different things. Now my background is locked. Background can never be moved. It always has to stay on the very bottom. So you can either change it from a background layer or to something else. So let's go ahead and play with a few layers. First thing we're going to do is going to add a picture of a beach to our image. So let's go ahead and go to File and Open. And we want to go ahead and grab one that says beach.psd and say open. It's going to go ahead and open in another tab. So we want to be able to move this beach into our postcard. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to do we're going to go here to our layers panel and make sure our layer is selected. We're going to double click it and rename it beach. It helps to be an organized designer and kind of label these things as you go. You hit enter. Let's go window and arrange, and we want 2 up vertically. So it's going to put both of these side by side. So we still have our beach layer selected, and we're going to go ahead and hold shift as we bring it over, and it's going to go ahead and center that for us. So I'm on beach, I'm going to hit shift, I'm going to grab this layer and move it right here to my beach and let go. And it's going to go ahead and bring that in, but you're going to say, I can't see it. It's right underneath that pineapple. So that's okay. We're going to go ahead and play with those as we go. So we don't need the beach anymore. Let's go ahead and close beach. We don't need to save it. And let's go ahead and change things up a little bit. So Photoshop will always bring it based on whatever layer you were in last. So we were in the background, so it brought it in. So let's go ahead and play with these layers just a little bit. So I've got my beach here. And let's go ahead and add a border to this layer. So we're on our beach layer. And let's go ahead and hide everything else. Let's hide the background. So this makes it transparent now. Let's go ahead and do our layer. Come down here to our layer style. Totally missed it. And I want to go ahead and add a stroke. It's going to say, what kind of stroke do you want? So let's go ahead and tell it the size we want it to be is 5 pixels. We want it to be positioned inside. We want our blend mode to be normal, our opacity to be 100%. And let's go ahead and choose our color. We can either choose our color from the color picker, or we can choose a color use our picker in the image itself. So I'm going to go ahead and choose, I kind of want to do one from the image itself. And say OK. And when you're happy with it, let's go ahead and say OK. So it's totally up to you. This is your postcard. Make it what you want. So now we need to rearrange these layers so that we can actually see the beach in front of the pineapple. So let's go ahead and make sure that we've got our postage, flower, pineapple. Let's make sure they're all visible. Now let's go ahead and grab our beach layer, and let's go ahead and drag that beach layer up over pineapple between flower. So now it's going to change that layer stacking order and make it a lot easier for us to see things. So if you're ever in a position where you can't see something's going on, you want to make sure that you look at that stacking order, make sure you're not accidentally hiding something. So next thing we're going to do is play with this postage layer. So we're going to select the postage layer. We're going to play with the opacity. The opacity is how see-through something is. So right now it's very stark, and it's not quite what we want it to be. So let's go ahead and go up here to opacity, and it's at 100%. Let's go ahead and drag that down to about 25, and see how we're getting a nice kind of just basic shadow of what we've got. So it just makes it an appearance of it without having to be quite as stark. And let's go ahead and do a Control S and save, or Option S. Now we're going to go ahead and play with some blending modes. So we want to, if we look just at our pineapple, I'm going to close everything off but our pineapple. Our pineapple's kind of bleh. It doesn't look very good. So we're going to actually add a blending mode and make it stack, just a little bit better. So let's go ahead to our pineapple layer. We're going to right click and do a duplicate layer, which right now is higher. There we go, duplicate. So I'm going to make another copy of it because I want to do some effects to this top copy that are going to show through to the bottom one. So now I want to, in my blending modes right here where it says normal, I want to change that normal over to overlay. You're going to see we get a much brighter, deeper tones. And let's go ahead and do our postage mode and turn that back on and add a blending mode to that as well. And instead of normal, let's go ahead and make it multiply. We get kind of a deeper tone. And let's do a Control S and save. So we've brightened up our pineapple, we've played with our postage. There's a whole bunch more about blending modes in the book you should probably take a peek at and play with. We will play with different types of blending modes as we go through different lessons. So next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take a peek at that beach that we brought in. So let's turn in our beach, turn off our postage, and let's go ahead and select our beach. So let's grab our move tool and grab our beach. And you're going to see we've got a few different things in our toolbar here. So let's go ahead and do our edit. And let's go to free transform. And we're going to get some different types of numbers up here. So we get our width, which is right over here. We get our height. We get our set rotation. So let's go ahead and change that rotation to be about 15 degrees. I'm going to hit tab and make it pop over. And make sure yes is what we want. So go ahead and tell it check. All right, so that's pretty nice. And we want to go ahead and let's make it a little bit smaller. So let's go ahead and make sure we're in here. Let's do our edit and free transform. Instead of 100%, let's go ahead and make it 50% and tab and 50%. All right, so I made it really tiny. I don't think I like it that way. Let's do undo. Control Z and undo. Ah, stop. Escape. All right, so escape. All right, I'm going to leave about that size because it's way too small otherwise. All right, let's go ahead and grab our flower layer. And let's go ahead and drag it so that our flower is just let's kind of grab our beach and kind of move it over here a little bit. So kind of over top a little bit. Let's turn our postage on so you can kind of see how that's all playing together. All right, so that's not too bad. Let's do a Control S on save. Now we're going to go ahead and use a filter to create some artwork. So let's go ahead to our background layer, and we want to create a new layer. So come down here to the plus sign, and we want to double click that new layer. We're going to call it clouds and hit enter. So let's come down here to our cloud layer, make sure you're still on there. Now let's go ahead into our tools panel. And we need to choose kind of a blue that's going to be part of our clouds. So choose any blue you like at all. Or you can pull a blue from maybe from your picture. So I've got a blue and a white now. I'm on my clouds layer. I'm going to go to filter and come down here to render. And I want to create clouds. So I want to render clouds. And say, what do you want? So it chose those two different colors based on what you had. So if you chose red and green, you'd get some pretty funky clouds, but to each their own. Control S to save. Now let's go ahead and add another flower to our postcard. So let's go ahead in our Photoshop files. Let's go to our pineapple layer, pineapple copy layer. Let's go ahead to Explore, and let's go into our bridge or Explore. I'm going to be in my chapter number 4. So another way to bring images in, so I'm in my bridge, and I want to go ahead and bring in this kind of purple flower. So what I can do is take this purple flower and drag it straight down into my Photoshop and bring it up. And that's going to go ahead and add it to my layers. And I'm going to hit enter. So now I've got that. Let's go ahead and kind of move it down here into the corner. So it's one easy way to kind of bring and create different types of layers from other elements. Let's do a Control S and save. All right, or we could bring it in as a smart object. It did come in as a smart object, so we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and add a little bit of text. Let's go ahead and click our Hawaii so we can see what's going on there. And let's grab our type tool, or text tool. And we want the horizontal type tool. For some reason it's really slow right now. And we're going to go ahead and pick up with more text in the next part.